So the film starts, and we are shown the time 1000 years ago, when it was the time of the Vikings. Vikings are called pirates who were in search of treasure at that time. We see that the king of the Vikings had come to the riverbank with his soldiers. It seemed that he had come here from a war. The king leaves a small crowd in the river. The king's daughter was stopping him from doing this. She says, "Dad, don't do this. Your work will cost us a lot." No one knew what he wanted to do. Then, seeing the crowd in the water, a very big thing comes out of the water. He ate the crowd. After that, he attacked all the soldiers of the king and killed them. Why did the king leave the crowd in the water? What was he looking for here? What was that thing? We will find out in the story. The thing that killed everyone, except for the king's daughter, who runs away from here. This story is shown to us many years ahead. We see an archaeologist whose name was Sigurd. He used to do research on his old things. Sigurd liked to know about him. To find out about him, he had been researching the Vikings for many years. He and his wife believed in some things that very few people believe in today. Sigurd and his wife did a lot of research on the Vikings. They found out that their ship had gone far away from their area. Their ship is found, and some of their artifacts. That is, some old things were also found. But why did the Vikings go so far? No one had the answer to that till today. And that's what it was. Sigurd wanted to know the answer to these things. But Sigurd and his wife believed that maybe the Vikings went so far to hide their treasure. But they had no proof of this. That's why no one believed what they said. Sigurd has 2 children. Sigurd's wife died of cancer. He used to work in a museum. Sigurd often got so busy in his work that he could not even give his children time properly. That's why Sigurd's daughter was often upset with him. Sigurd did a lot of research on everything today. There was a presentation in his museum. The owner of the museum tells him, "Don't tell him anything useless, just tell him what you believe in, otherwise they will never invest money in our museum. And not at all on your project." Anyway, Sigurd's presentation starts. But the audience was not very interested in his words. Then Sigurd started telling such things that one day the world will end, and he says that we got a Viking ship. They went so far so that they can hide their treasure from the enemies. And we have to find out about this. We should go to that place. But all the people there started laughing. That's why the investors refused to give money. Sigurd's boss also started laughing. He says, "What nonsense are you talking? There was nothing like that." But Sigurd was still trying to convince him. He sits in his car and thinks a lot about this thing. He was sure of all this. Sigurd is just afraid that if no one believes him on these things, then all his research will go to waste. Because he and his wife had done a lot of research on these things. They both found out that Vikings had gone from Heisenberg to Finnmark so that they can hide their treasure from the enemies. But to get there, Sigurd needed a map which could prove something. But so far, he had not found anything like this. He spends so much time thinking that he does not pay attention to his children whom he had to bring from school. But he quickly went to school and brought his children home. It was raining heavily at night, and Sigurd was lost in his thoughts. Then the doorbell rings. It was Alan, who was working on this project with him, who is now closed. He finds some artifacts. Alan was very happy. He says to Sigurd, "I have brought something that you will be very happy to see. Our research was not in vain." He takes out a stone from his bag on which something was written in another language. But it was not so difficult for him to understand because Sigurd knew how to read that language. He reads that the king of the Vikings went to a river with his soldiers where a terrifying thing attacked them and killed them all. But the king's daughter survived in all this, and this whole story was the same as we saw in the beginning. He also finds a mark on that stone, which was the locket of the king's daughter. Looking at that mark, he felt as if he had seen something like that mark somewhere. They both go to the museum because Sigurd was still working there, so he had the keys to that museum. He gets that locket there, which when he brings this mark, it was exactly the same. He was sitting perfectly on the mark. And because of that locket, Sigurd also understood some riddles. What is the way to go there where the king of the Vikings had gone with his soldiers. He now decides to go there because he had to prove his research true. He also convinces his children about this because he had promised his children that he would take them on a tour. Sigurd talks to Ellen. They both were sure that the Vikings had gone so far to hide their treasure. And they were also not sure about the terrifying monsters. That they were killed by something terrifying. But Sigurd had reached Finnmark. With Ellen and his children. With all the preparations. Where he had called a girl. She was a tourist guide. Her name was Elizabeth. She also had a driver with her, who looked a little strange. When he shows her the map, she tells him that this place is in the middle of the mountains. Now they all go there. There was no snow on the mountains, so it was not very difficult for them to go there. Now when they reach the river, where they had to go, the road ahead is closed. The driver tells them that centuries ago there was a war between two kingdoms here. This place was taken in captivity. Now when there was no one here, then how was the rule? There were also a lot of mosquitoes in this place. Obviously, this dense jungle puts lotion on Sigurd's daughter. Then while talking, he finds out from Sigurd's daughter that his mother has died. That Sigurd's wife is not in this world. Hearing this, Elizabeth was a little sad. Anyway, they move on. When they go ahead, they get the goods of the war. Sigurd tells them that no one had come here for many years. But their destination was not this. But they had to go to an island, which was in the middle of the river. It looked like an arch whose name is Eye of Jordan. They quickly see it. Now they all make a boat out of wood and reach that island. According to Sigurd and his wife's research, the treasure of the Vikings should have been here. They all now start looking for that treasure. Then the driver starts reading Sigurd's diary, in which there was a lot of information about the treasure. But Sigurd did not want to take his diary, because he did not want everyone to know about it. Sigurd's children get very bored. They wanted to go home. But Sigurd tells his daughter that no, not now. I need answers to some questions, then only we will go home. Hearing this, Sigurd's daughter got angry, and she goes into the jungle. She sees a cave, while Sigurd's daughter sees an iron bunker, in which there was money and clothes of the Vikings. The driver, who was greedy, comes there and takes those things. Sigurd and Elizabeth were talking outside. She says to Sigurd, I am sorry, your wife is dead. It will be very difficult for you to take care of the children alone. As soon as Sigurd starts answering Elizabeth's questions, Sigurd hears a voice when he goes to see. He sees the cave which his son had found. The cave looked very deep. Sigurd thinks that the treasure of the Vikings must have hidden it here. Now they go down one by one with the help of ropes because they had already prepared. They all got down and started looking. Alan finds an old helmet of a Viking lying in the mud. He tells everyone to start looking here, and there may be more things here. They get a lot of stuff there. Sigurd's son found a strange big egg about which he does not tell anyone and keeps it in his bag. Now they get a lot of stuff here. When they were packing all this stuff, the driver asks them, are we going to sell these things which will give us a lot of money? Sigurd answers him, no, it's not like that. The driver gets angry because he was already greedy. He says, what is the use of coming so far? Are we all going to risk our lives and give all this to the museum? It can't be like that. He shows his gun and takes all the stuff from them to scare them. He also fired a bullet which scares everyone. That's why no one stops him. He comes up with all the stuff. He came up and cut the ropes from which all this came down. He takes all the stuff in the boat and goes along the river. Then he felt something, that dangerous creature which attacked the Vikings years ago there, in the cave. Aaron finds a human skull. Sigurd's daughter was scared of her. She now insists on going home, but now Russia was also broken, so how did she get out? Here Elizabeth starts climbing on the top of the cave. She knows how to climb. She goes up and throws ropes for everyone. Anyway, they all came out of the cave, but they don't see their boat anywhere. Either did the driver who had taken their boat. Anyway, she knew that he must have sold the stuff she was looking for in the black market, but she didn't know that the creature in the water has killed her. She had nothing to cross the river, so now they decide to spend the night here. When Sigurd opens his skull, he finds a huge tooth in it. It looked like it might have been killed by an animal, but these two look at the tooth and think, what animal can have such a big tooth? They now go back inside the cave without telling anyone. As they went further inside, they saw a lot of human skulls. This means that the Vikings who had come here centuries ago died here and never returned to their country. That's why they weren't mentioned anywhere in the stories. And all these skulls belong to the Vikings who we saw at the beginning of the story. Seeing all this, Sigurd Allen says. According to my research, the Vikings of that time believed in a strange creature. They believed that one day he would kill the whole world. But Sigurd believed that there could have been such animals thousands of years ago. But they died at the same time. For the first time, they saw a glimpse of that animal, which looked very big and very strange. They both got scared. They couldn't believe their eyes. When they were in the cave, Sigurd's son found an egg. On the top of the cave, Sigurd's children were awakened by the sound of the egg. A snake comes out of the egg when Sigurd's son feeds him. The snake ate the food from Sigurd's son's hand. Elizabeth also wakes up. She had locked the snake's child in a box, but it was constantly making strange noises. The noises reached the creature, who was in the water. A rope was in the water, which tied the broken bunker, in which Sigurd's children and Elizabeth were. The creature now pulls the rope into the water. Then Sigurd and Allen also come out of the cave. Sigurd quickly tries to open the door so that he can save his children. He managed to save his daughter and Elizabeth, but his son was still in the bunker. He stops because of a tree outside. Taking advantage of this, Sigurd also saved his son. Everyone was very scared, especially Sigurd's children. Elizabeth says, "We have to get out of here somehow." That's when Allen finds a box, in which the creature was a snake's child. He understood why that creature is after him. He wants to take his child, but he still keeps that box close to him. What was his intention? No one knew. He had to get out of here at any cost. Elizabeth throws the rope to the other side with the help of a gun. They started going to the other side one by one. Allen goes first, then the children and Elizabeth. When it was Sigurd's turn, he stopped in the middle. Sigurd knew that there was a danger in the water. That's why he was trying to go ahead again and again. But he couldn't go. Elizabeth comes back to help him with the help of the rope. If Elizabeth hadn't saved Sigurd at the right time, he would have died. Because when he went a little further, a creature that looked like a snake came out of the water and attacked him, which he had seen for the first time with his own eyes. It was so big that it could easily eat a human. Because of his attack, they both fell into the water. When the creature was about to kill them, Sigurd took advantage of this, and they both quickly came out of the water. All of them had left. They felt that the danger was only in the water, but they didn't know that that creature can also walk on the ground. Now they go ahead. They find an old bunker, i.e. an underground way. Sigurd also understood the story of the Vikings, that they had not come here to hide any treasure but to kill this creature because they believed that he would destroy the world. The whole story was written by the daughter of the king of the Vikings who had escaped here. They see a way up when they think of going out of that way. Allen goes out first. Sigurd had found out that Allen has the creature's child. That's why the creature snake is behind. Hi, Sigurd tells Allen, "The bag you have, I know it has the snake's child because of which it is behind us. Give me that bag." The creature snake came from above and killed Allen. He grabs it and eats it now because that bag had fallen in the bunker. That snake creature also comes inside. The children run away. They hid in a secret place actually, when this scary snake came in. A lot of mud had fallen because of which Sigurd and Elizabeth were unconscious. The children were hiding from this creature snake, who saved their lives alone. But that creature snake sees the children. When Sigurd hears his children's voices, he comes to his senses. Now he goes in front of that creature snake and takes the child out of that box and gives it to him. The creature also took his child and quietly left. They all come out of that bunker safely. At the end of the story, we are shown that Sigurd brought that stone to him, on which the story of the Vikings was written, which was written by the daughter of the king of the Vikings. He gives it to the museum. Sigurd himself left the job of the museum, and now he had stopped searching for all these old things, so that no one ever finds out what is around the island. That looks like fire. Now he chose a teacher's job for himself, so that after this job he can give a lot of time to his children. So here Sigurd's research search is over. Do you also want to know about such old things? Do let us know in the comments section.